Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a books beside my bed video for you where I wrap up the last 7 days worth of reading. Two things I want to mention at the start of this video. I got some really lovely book mail this week. First up, thank you very much to Mel from a book fiend named Mel who sent me a copy of Salt Kiss by Sierra Simone. There was a very lovely message attached and she sent this to me because I'm one of the co-hosts for her Roll of Reads readathon that is happening this month, which I'm trying my very best with, and I'm not having a lot of success with my books, but that's okay because we're just going to keep persevering. It's only the 9th of March at the moment, so I have 2/3 of the month left to go. You guys know I read this earlier in the year, really enjoyed it. This cover is absolutely gorgeous, tells you absolutely nothing about the book whatsoever, but it is a very pretty book, so thank you very much. I appreciate it, Mel. And the other thing that I got sent was a finished copy of Body of Lies by Sarah Bailey. So a couple of weeks ago, and I'll leave it linked on the screen, I actually reviewed this. I had a NetGalley copy of it from Alan and Unwin, and last week I think I sent them in my review links for various things that I'd been talking about that had come out, and then this turned up in the mail, which is really lovely of them to send me a copy of it. I did get physical copies of all of the other books in the series, so now I have the complete set, and this is a really great Australian police detective mystery crime story, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I have my full review in another video. So thank you to Alan and Unwin for that. With all of that out of the way, I guess it's time to start talking about the books, and we're going to kick off with a upper middle grade story. This is an Australian upper middle grade called Look Me in the Eye by Jane Godwin. Jane Godwin is one of my favourite children's picture book authors, and I've only read a couple of her middle fiction titles now. And this one is about two girls who are in year 7, so it is sitting in that upper middle grade bracket, so around 13, 14 years old, and it definitely deals with topics that they would find intriguing. So this is about two friends who have had a third person sort of foisted onto their group. So you have Bella and Connie. Bella is our protagonist. She lives with her mum and her stepdad, and her mum is about to have another baby. Her life is pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward, very simple family life. And her best friend Connie lives with parents who impose a few more rules and restrictions on her, like a curfew and whatnot. And they get along great. Their relationship is fantastic until Connie's cousin Mish turns up in town, and we know that something is going on with Mish. She's very secretive. She's meeting strange guys in the city or offering to hand off various packages and things to them, and Bella is trying to sort out what's going on. We also know that Mish is a shoplifter. The dynamic of these three girls, while also recognizing that something is very, very wrong with Mish's home life, and that her parents track her incessantly. And we don't really know why, because Bella only knows sort of the rumors or has her suspicions, but she doesn't know the truth of the family dynamic. So this is in a lot of ways kind of disturbing because it's about parental surveillance, and when that switches over into actually physically stalking your child. It deals with lying and consequences and trust. And it was a really interesting read. It was at times uncomfortable to read. This is 100% why I don't work with teenagers, but Jane Godwin's writing style is impeccable as always. So it's a really, really interesting read. So thank you to Hachette who sent me a review copy of this book. I was delighted to read it and to get to try some more of Jane Godwin's work. Sticking with the middle grade theme, I also read book 2 of Lightfall. This is Shadow of the Bird by Tim Probert. This is a really gorgeous graphic novel. I'm really enjoying it. I read the first one last year, and it's been quite popular with the students in my class to pull out and read. And it is the story of Bee, who finds the last of the Galdurians, and together they're setting off on a quest to try and save the world. And in the first book, they were hunting for Bee's grandfather. They have found him, he's a wizard, but we now know that the world is much bigger and under much more of a threat. And there is a rivalry between the Galdurians and this ancient creature that tried to eat their sons, as in physical sons, not children's sons. And in this book, it all sort of comes to head because that creature is reawakened and is eating the sun, or the suns, because there's more than one, and stealing the light from this world. Cad is determined to stop it because he's been told that that is what Galdurians do. And when we get to the end of the book, we realize that maybe more is going on, and that Bee and Cad's actions have big, big consequences. So I'm really looking forward to book 3. It's been a delight so far, and the illustrations in here are just so gorgeous. All right, if you have seen my vlog from Friday, you will know that I read Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber, and then I just decided to read the rest of the series during the week. If anyone is keeping score, you'll know that I didn't actually own a copy of the third book, A Curse for True Love. I now do, and This is a second-hand copy from Amazon and it is perfect. It's in perfect condition. There's nothing wrong with it. I lucked out with that because this only cost me like $20. So I won't talk too much about Once Upon a Broken Heart because I have an entire vlog and a reaction to every 100 pages in this book. But it is the story of Evangeline who makes a deal with Jax, the Prince of Hearts, in order to stop her love from marrying her stepsister, which then has flow-on consequences as she is forced into a deal, as she is forced to participate in the consequences of her deal with Jax, which includes her being made into a statue, a hero, into the betrothed of a prince, and then also framed for his murder. And it's a very interesting and compulsive read. The entire series is, you know, a young adult fantasy romance. The romance is ultimately between Evangeline and Jax, but you also have Evangeline's romance and relationship with Apollo. And I will say, Evangeline's sister disappears after the first half of the second book, so just be aware of that. Are these great literary works? No, they're cotton candy for your brain, and there is nothing wrong with that. I absolutely sped through these. None of these took me a long time to read. I still think the first book is probably my favorite in terms of the story that it was telling, and the first two books are entirely from Evangeline's perspective, and then the third book you get Evangeline, Apollo, and Jax's perspective. I wish we got more of Jax's perspective. I think we needed Apollo's perspective because there are some interesting thoughts going through his brain, but we didn't get as much of Jax's perspective, which I think would have been nice. Would have been nice. And I'm the kind of reader, I haven't figured out what's going on with Jax's apples, so if you know, feel free to let me know down below. The good thing about these books, so I think in the vlog I showed that there's embossing under the cover. So I've been trying desperately to find a book that has a bow and arrow on the cover for the Bookemon reading challenge. There's an arrow on here, but there's no bow, but there is a bow and arrow on the hardback, which is still the front cover. So I'm taking it. There's a bow and arrow there. And then that's A Curse for True Love. Just has a heart. Say what you will, but Stephanie Garber does get very beautiful books. Even the new paperbacks, the illustrated arty ones are lovely, but these just have, like, her first edition hardbacks always have beautiful covers and lovely little details, and they're not special editions, they're just the regular editions. Then I read Stroopwafels and Starlight, and I forgot to write down the author's name. Anyway, the book will be on the screen. This is a fun little sci-fi romance story. It is about a human woman who lives on Earth who ends up having to shelter an alien escort from another planet when he escapes from his captivity and lands on Earth totally by accident and has to learn customs. And she happens to live, I think it's in Denmark. Anyway, she shelters him, they fall in love. They end up having to leave Earth because he's being chased by bounty hunters, and they set up a new life on like an intergalactic space station that is a neutral territory. And that's the story. Like, it was fun, it was sweet, it was not overly complicated, and that was a great thing. I also read Chances by Lee Jacko, which is the first book in this particular series, which is kind of like a dark retelling of superhero stories where the villains are the heroes. So this is a play on Harvey Dent's character from the Batman universe, but you know, we're not saying that. And so Lucian is a lawyer. He is driven in his life to make all of his decisions by flipping a coin. He has had to enter into a deal with one of the local mob bosses to basically be his lawyer and whatever this person needs, until he is forced to go and collect Sabrina, the mob boss's new fiancée, through an arranged marriage. And Sabrina is this fantastic character. She's the daughter of a rival mob family, and she has tried to stay out of it as much as possible. All she wants to do is make things. She's a potter. That's her passion, and she has absolutely no interest in the family business whatsoever, much to the detriment of her mother, who is awful. Her father is not a very strong man in that he can't stand up to his wife. Anyway, so Sabrina is basically taken to this new mob boss who is also horrible. I mean, why wouldn't he be? This world is not nice. It's only her friendship with Lucian, who she eventually begins to fall for, that gets her through the day. And this becomes increasingly complex for Lucian himself because he also falls for Sabrina but knows that it is a really bad idea to fall for her. So this is a forbidden romance with forced proximity, an obsessed hero. Like, he is full on devoted to her, and I had a great time reading it. Lee Jacko's writing is always very compulsively readable. I've only read her novellas so far, but that readability transferred into this full-length novel, and I really want to read the second book because I had a great time. Because if you don't know this about me, I am a fan of Batman comics. I love that world, and I love that this is a contemporary dark romance version of that world. And then lastly, I read the Clean Sweep graphic novel volume 1. So this graphic novel is the first half of the story. For those who know, this actually ends just after the Costco scene, although it's not called Costco in the graphic novel, for fairly obvious reasons. The graphic novel was great. So this is about Dina, who owns a magical bed and breakfast, which is a way station for aliens who are traveling to and from Earth. At the very start of the book, dogs are being murdered in her neighborhood. She realizes that something magical is going on. She asks the local werewolf, who doesn't know that she knows that he's a werewolf, to investigate, and he sticks his nose in. Thank you, Sean Evans. It's about the two of them uncovering what exactly is going on. So I've talked about this heaps. We did an entire read along for this series. I love this series so much. And I was really intrigued to read the graphic novel. I'm kind of annoyed because I wanted to have the physical copy, but they didn't deliver it yesterday and I'm so annoyed. But anyway, that's fine. Moving on. It was great. Like, I really enjoyed the art style. It was not kind of what I was expecting. Like, there were certain things that didn't look the way that they, well, I mean, I don't visualize, so I don't really know what I expected, but I don't know. It's very hard to explain what I was thinking. But anyway, that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I liked the way that some of the scenes and some of the history were depicted through the images and the storytelling style. It was so much fun, and I'm so glad that I read it, and I can't wait for volume 2. And in what may be my shortest wrap up in the last little while, that is everything that I read this week. In the comments, I'd love to know if you've read any of these books or if you're planning on picking any of them up. If you just want to let me know that you're here, feel free to leave a star emoji down below. Otherwise, I hope that wherever you are in the world, you are staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, everyone.